to La Artisteada, the space for global culture shapers. Today, we are here with our incredible guest. She is a bilingual singer, composer, and dancer, Mxka. She is from the Bay Area and the daughter of a Mexican mother and Black father from Louisiana. Her unique music delves into different genres like house, Afro, Latin soul, and many more. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am overly excited about this conversation. Okay, let's start with, I think, the introduction. I mentioned that your mom is Mexican and your dad is Black from Louisiana.
Yeah.
How was it growing up as a biracial girl?
Yeah, so my parents broke up when I was like 3. So when I was with my mom.
My parents also divorced when I can't even remember them being together.
Really? Yeah, I can't even picture them together. But like, so my mom obviously from Mexico, and so like on that side it was a lot of, I grew up with all the Mexican traditions. And then as far as like on my dad's side, like I didn't really grow up too much around the Black side because they're all in Louisiana. So and then my stepmom was white. So like growing up it was kind of like culturally Mexican and American, so. Did
your father stay in the Bay Area?
Yeah, he stayed in the Bay.
Okay. So you did continue to see him.
Yeah. So like my dad was like the only Black relative that I had like an actual.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was like immediate, like close. But then that was it. Everybody else, my brothers are mixed and my sister's full Mexican, but yeah.
Oh wow! And how was that? How was it growing up being like the only Afro Latina in your family?
Yeah, I didn't know I was really. I mean, I knew I was different. Obviously, at my when I would go to like family parties or like just even being around my family, I'm the darkest one. So like, but I didn't see that as a bad thing. I kind of liked that I was different. And that I was just unique in that way.
Do you remember like when you had like a moment of, I guess, like consciousness of when you realized that you were different, or did that never, like, it was never really part of the conversation?
It wasn't until like maybe high school, college-ish, where I was like, I mean, again, I already knew that I was different. Like I knew that, being Black and Mexican, there wasn't too many of us. But there are. I later found out in my 20s that there is like so many Blaxicans out there too. It's just that they're not really, I wasn't tapped in with them like that. But growing up, like, yeah, it was kind of like, I took advantage of being different. I liked that I stood out. And so, yeah.
And when you visited, like, you said you stayed in contact with your dad and like his family. When you visited, like, how was it being like Mexican in that setting?
Yeah. So like with my dad's side, it's kind of like, the same thing. Like we're just mixed, everyone was just mixed. So it was kind of like, I didn't really feel like I stood out too much because like I looked more like that side anyway. So
yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so interesting because I feel like for me, I guess growing up, I didn't know that there was like Afro Mexicans, and like I guess my consciousness of like Blaxicans were like Afro Mexicans. Okay, wait, actually a question. Do you differentiate between Afro-Mexican, like the concept of Afro-Mexican and Blaxican? Because I feel like Blaxican is usually used when like people like you who have like a Black American father and like a Mexican, a non-Black Mexican mother, as opposed to like Afro-Mexicans. I feel like it's people who were historically like from Mexico but are also Black. Do you make that difference?
Yeah. So for me, I like saying Blaxican personally because it is like Black is a American term, so like that's why I say Blaxican, because it's like very specific on like what, because like you said, there's Afro Mexicans, and that's usually for people that are like born in Mexico that were African or Black and born and raised there. But I think Black is like an American term for sure.
Did you know about that history? Because I feel like I also became like very ignorant of me, because I grew up in Tijuana and I literally did not ever know that like Afro-Mexicans existed, but I guess it's like a historical thing in Mexico, about the erasure of Blackness. But you growing up being Blaxican, like, did you know that there were like Afro-Mexicans?
No, honestly, because like I would always get people to be like, oh, you look Panamanian, you look Honduran, Dominican, but I really didn't know what that meant because like again, like where I grew up in a small town in San Leandro, and it's not, we don't really got like Dominicans like that. Or so I didn't know, I didn't know. I kept being called these things, but I didn't know what they look like or anything like that. And so it wasn't until like 20s I found out that, there's black people in these Latin countries. It's like, there's cities full of black. I just found out like a few years ago that there's like cities in Mexico, countries in Mexico that are predominantly black, but it's like they're not they're not represented in media at all. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I feel like I also always thought of like Dominicans and like also like Puerto Ricans that there are black Latinos, but never like in the Mexican context. But what was your relationship to the arts growing up? Since you like eventually became a singer, what was the arts that existed within your family or like your space?
Well, my mom was a dancer. She did folklorico.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she did that. My dad also dabbled with like the trumpet too growing up in high school. So like music's always been like, and just being creative has just been in the family. But
wait, how was your mom in folklorico? Like, is that like, did she continue to dance when you were?
No, I've never seen her. I've never seen her.
Okay.
So like, it was like more when she, like, I think, I can't remember. I think it was like before she had me. I think it was more so. But yeah, so like, I even tried it too a little bit when I was younger, but I don't know what happened. I wish I stayed with it. But, yeah, so growing up, I mean, I've always been singing. My abuelita would tell me like I'll be singing songs like just randomly. And then elementary school, I would just bring like my boombox and I started dancing. Like everybody, I had a performance ready every week. Like,
oh my gosh, I love that.
I just knew I wanted to sing and dance. Like that's just a vision that I've always saw since forever. And then I just
did you do performances for your family?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I got videos on. I'm sure like my stepmom and my dad have like videos of me just shows every day. Like,
oh my gosh, I love that.
Dancing, yeah. It was like a lot of like, the band No Doubt?
No.
You don't know No Doubt?
No.
Gwen Stefani?
Okay, I know of Gwen Stefani. Yeah. I think I grew up pretty ignorant to like American culture, even though like Tijuana is a border city. I was like more listening, I guess in the radio, more like Katy Perry or like Lady Gaga, like this more contemporary in that moment music in English. But not anything outside of the very commercial singers.
Yeah.
But okay, so No Doubt.
Yeah, so they're like a big 90s rock band. And so like we did a lot of dances to them. And yeah, so I was dancing it for a long time. Like I just knew I wanted to perform and do that. And it wasn't until I think high school, I think I auditioned to be like a part of a dance team. And I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, I dance, like I got this. And someone made fun of me and they're like, that's how you dance? And I was just like, no. And like joked it off. But like that really affected me. Like I stopped dancing after that.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stick to singing. And so like, I kind of like fell off the dancing for a while. And if I was dancing, it was like in musicals or things like that. But I like got
that sucks. And I feel like you rarely, like when you're at that age, you don't really like feel confident enough many times, because people may have, but I feel like at that age is like such a formative age that you like stop. And I remember like also back in high school, I loved dancing, but I always felt like I was not comfortable in my body and I always felt like I wasn't good enough. But I took a class and like everyone was complimenting me after that class. And I was like this little nerd that like, sadly, I was a little bit antisocial when I was in high school, which is strange because like I am a very extroverted and social person. Yeah. But I feel like the United States just was like, oh my gosh, this country is so difficult for me. But then when you get like those like comments, whether they're good or bad, like they impact you. And then in college, I was like, everyone's too good, so I'll stop dancing. And I'm like, it's on my 26th year of age that I'm like taking classes again because I'm like, you know what, it's something that I loved doing at a point. But okay, so then you stopped dancing and you started music. Did you take classes? Like how did that start?
Well, I mean, singing, I was always in choir. So like I was in choir from elementary into high school.
Was this like a school choir?
Yeah, school, college, church choir too, when I was younger. In high school, I joined this after-school program called Full Visions Kids. And, like, that's kind of, like, where this is put on by this guy named Tony Spires. And, like, he was one that kind of, like, started he pushed me to start doing my original stuff. Like I would write music all the time. He's like, okay, like let's do it in front of people. Like, and so it was like a little class for like all these entertainers, like whether you sing, dance, rap. There was actors in this class, and so he really pushed us to like step outside of like our comfort zone. And I tried rapping for a little bit, and I was like, that's not my thing.
Why didn't you feel it was your thing?
It's just not. I'm just not. That's not me. Like it just wasn't. I don't got the flows like that, you know. And like you have to have a certain delivery when it comes to rap. So I was like, nah. So, but yeah. Anyways, in this
wait, I'm sorry. I want to ask because I feel like my and this may be a little bit ignorant, but my knowledge of like the Bay Area, I feel like there's like a very large hip hop culture.
Oh yeah.
And did you feel like you were part of that?
Yeah, I mean, like, because, you know, we had the hyphy movement, and so, like, when this was going on, the hyphy...
like, there's a lot of things that you're going to have to explain, I'm sorry.
You know, like, Mac J. So, like, there's a lot of... the hyphy movement was just, like, you know, this movement that was put on by the Bay Area, like, the artists there that were kind of, like... I have to play you music for you to get it. It's like, it was a time, like, you had to be there.
Oh, okay.
But it was, like, E40, Mac Dre, Too Short, like, these were, like... It was just like a certain genre of music was up, and it was Bay Area music. And anyways, yeah, so like it was just a part of me growing up, you know. So I just felt like, you know, it was a part of me. But yeah, at this after school program too, like that's when I really started doing like original stuff. Like I started doing Spanglish. Like I always knew that I wanted to sing in Spanish too. So like back then my Spanish was like really bad, but like I knew that this was the direction I wanted to go. Like I still wanted to communicate with my family in Mexico and things like that. And so those were the shows I did with that after school program were like the first shows I did, you know, presenting and doing my own original stuff. And yeah, I came a long way since then. But
wow. Wait, was that in high school?
Yes, high school.
Okay. And then I forgot to ask you a question. Did you have did you travel a lot back to Mexico or not that much?
Yeah. So like in the summers we'd go stay with my abuelito and he lived in Los Reyes, La Paz, and so like we used to go.
¿En La Paz in Baja California?
No, Mexico. Los
Mexico?
Reyes, La Paz.
But is that a state?
It's like a little,
yeah. Mexican state. Oh, okay. State of Mexico.
Yeah. And so like we used to go every summer. We'd stay with him, and yeah.
And like this is literally out of just like genuine curiosity. How was it going to Mexico and like being an Afro-Latina, a Blaxican in Mexico?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like that there, you know, like my grandpa always called me morena, you know, and so like, but again, growing up, like I didn't think about it like that. I wasn't like, especially in Mexico, I didn't feel like I stood out there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So no one really like, you know, I never had like any bad experiences while I was there.
Yeah, but was there, because it doesn't necessarily have to be bad, but like, did you feel like some sort of pride in like being different?
Yeah, I mean, my time like the summers there, again, I was like so young, so like those kinds of things you're not really thinking about, you know. I'm just
okay.
I never had to stop and be like, oh, I'm like Black and Mexican, and you know, just I never thought that. It really crossed my mind. Yeah.
Okay, and then you stopped going when you were older?
No, I still go. Yeah, I still go. It wasn't as often. Last time I've been was like I think a year ago. So like,
okay,
I'm trying to make it like a yearly thing and go back. So, but yeah, I mean, it was more so when my grandpa was still alive. Like he passed away. I think it's 4 years ago now. And so when he obviously was alive, we go more often. Yeah. But I definitely want to go there and like do more shows and things like that. I thought about living there for like 3 months. So.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, very excited. I love Mexico, like Mexico City specifically. I love that place. Like, I love the place. I love the people. I feel like whenever I go, I see a lot of me's there. And just like culturally, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I am not as unique as I thought I'd be. I was, but I love it, you know? Yeah. Okay, so then let's go back to your high school. You started then creating your own music. When you graduated high school, like I guess not when you graduated high school, when did you decide to pursue it as like your career? Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it took a while. Like, I had different little groups I was in. And like I said, I just never stopped doing it. It wasn't until the pandemic where it kind of like forced me to take it seriously. Because it's like we didn't have anything else to do, right? So it was like I had to be in a room and record, like it was kind of like the universe being like, you have no excuses now, because I think subconsciously I felt like I was afraid to just go at it all the way, because it's been something I've been doing my entire life is music. And so to finally be like, okay, I'm gonna do this full time and like, really go all in, it was like scary, I think. And so I think I was kind of avoiding it for so long, but in the pandemic, again, you had nothing but time. So I spent January through like May of 2020 just like experimenting with different sounds. I was doing like R&B, but then also would do indie and pop stuff, and I was trying everything. And then around that time, that's when I felt like, okay, I have enough songs, I feel like, or that are decent that I can show to somebody. And so I was starting to reach out to people, like looking for producers, because I was like, okay, but these are all YouTube beats. Like I want to start making like my own sound. And so then I reached out to a friend of mine and asking if he knew any like Latin producers, because I know that's the lane I wanted to go into. And he was like, oh yeah, I know this guy named Stilo, but he's in LA.
Sorry, continue.
He's like, I know this guy named Stilo. He's down in LA. And I remember being like so nervous to reach out, because at this point I'm so new to it. I wasn't used to reaching out to producers like that. Like I remember typing him a message to Stilo and I was like gonna throw up. Like I felt so nervous. And then I reached out and then he's like, yeah, come through. And me and my one of my good friends drove down with me.
Oh wow.
And we met him. I had a few friends with me. We're like a little group. But we went down there and just to peep the vibes, and we felt like we really we were like Stilo's energy and his vibe, and we're like, yeah, he seems like somebody that is like would be a great fit. And so then from there, that's when we started collabing and we started like honing the sound. And the first song we did was Wild Heart. That's how I got it tatted now. Yeah. Because it was the first song that I released like for real, you know. So
okay, I'm wondering, like, I feel like in this podcast I really like asking people like very specific questions about their journeys, because I hate going to places and then like people being like very general, like, oh, you just have to try hard. I'm like, no, let's like talk specific. You said you got very nervous about sending this message. Literally, I want to know, what did you type on the message? Did you send him the music that you had created? Just for like people who are like thinking about maybe reaching out to other people, and for them to know how to approach someone and like be professional, but also like put themselves out there.
I think that was like 4 years ago. So I think that what I said was something along I think I was just like, hey, I'm trying to get some music done. Like I want to recreate some beats. I think it was something like that. I had to look. I would scroll back. But I think I said like, yeah, like I'm looking for someone to help me produce these beats. Like if you're interested, like, or if you would be down, let me know. We're going to be in LA. We can like link up. And
were you going to be in LA, or would you be in LA because of this?
No, we were planning on going, because there was other producers that were meeting too. Like, cause I was at the time, I was living in New York. So, but I was visiting back home in the Bay Area. So okay. And I was in the Bay too. So like when I was it was kind of like I was all over the place. Yeah. But I remember like being specifically in New York.
Wait, why were you in New York?
I just lived there for 4 years. Yeah.
Oh, okay. What were you doing there?
Just living there.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Wait, okay. I'm sorry with my weird questions about identity, but I want to go back, because like New York is a place where there's a lot of Afro Latinos, and I think in comparison probably to the Bay Area or to LA, I feel like New York is a place where there are more. Did you feel like you saw like more representation? Like was that something that you went through, or not at all?
Yeah, so like it was a new experience, and I did feel like, oh my god, these people look like me. And it wasn't until I moved to New York, people were like, oh, are you Dominican? I'm like, no, what is that? Like, what are you talking about? And then I went to like Dykeman, I think, or something like that. It was Harlem. And And I just remember seeing Dominicans. I was like, oh, I get it. They're all like Black people that can speak Spanish. And so, yeah. And then I actually had a few friends that were Dominican, and like just being around them and their families. And like I actually went to the DR. Like I was like, oh, this feels like, okay. Like I felt more like there was some like relatable in the sense of like they look like me, you know what I'm saying, and they speak Spanish and they're dark, and because at that time before that I didn't really see it too much.
Yeah. And did this influence your music, your like choice to pursue a career in music too? Because I feel like, well, I don't know if in your house, like in your household with like your Mexican mother, it was very like musical and dancey. I feel like at least in Tijuana, I don't think that like, I feel like in comparison to Dominicans and to Puerto Ricans, Mexicans are not as like music is not as ingrained in like our culture. We go and we dance, but it's not in comparison again to these other two places. Like it's much less musical, I guess.
Well, my mom always listened to me. We always had music on. Like she liked a lot of salsa. Like music has always been like a big thing, you know?
Okay.
For sure. And so like I grew up listening to all of that.
Oh, know? Okay.
She liked a lot of Latin.
So it wasn't like anything like new for you when you went into the space.
Well, I mean, the difference is like, you know, Puerto Rico, the reggaeton, you know. My mom loved Daddy Yankee, but like, you know, it wasn't until like New York where you know, it's nothing but reggaeton. So it's like that's like and dembow, you know. So like that's like a whole different.
yeah. Okay, so then you were saying that you were going to come, you were in the Bay Area, but you were going to travel to LA. And so you mentioned that you were going to be here meeting more producers.
Yeah, just to see who we can work with and start getting some ideas and like start really building a sound, you know. And then, that's when we met Stilo, and that's when we started working.
And did you send him some of the songs that you had already created?
Yeah. So when we met up with him, I was able to show him the songs that I've done so far, because I would just record myself at the house. And I showed him a bunch of different ones, and I think I remember showing him a song called Kisses in the Morning, and it was like a pop song that I did, like really poppy, like Katy Perry type pop. And I still want to put it out, but we gotta figure that out.
We're ready.
Yeah. But it was like that, and so that's what kept the conversation going, and that's how we did Wild Heart, and then we did after that we just did a few more songs.
And were you traveling constantly, or did you that's when you moved here?
Yeah, so I was traveling a lot back and forth from New York to LA.
Well, expensive.
At the time during the pandemic, it was cheap.
Oh, it was okay. So it was during 2020.
Yeah. This was all during 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. And so then, how like did you keep the relationship going? Like, how did you keep building? Did you come just to record and then you flew back, or did you like decide to like move here eventually? Like, what was that process for you?
Yeah, so when I was living in New York, we just fly out here and work on some music. We try to get some stuff done out here because like people I was working with were all still in the Bay Area, really. And so, when I would come out here, we'd work, and then I would stay for like a week just to do like photo shoots, things like that. Then eventually, I was just flying back and forth so much. I ended up moving back to the Bay Area. And then when I was in the Bay, I was driving here every week. So I was like,
every week?
It was like every other week.
It's like 5 hours, no?
Yeah, but I like driving.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah. It's like really meditating.
What do you do on the drives?
That's what I'm saying. You're just thinking. You're in your head. So
do you listen to music or do you listen to podcasts?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was driving here like every other week. And then eventually I was like, I'm just going to have to make the move. And then I moved here a year ago.
Okay. And how do you feel like the opportunities? Because I feel like New York, I guess in comparison to here, and again, I don't work in the music industry, so I may be wrong, but I feel like maybe in New York, there's a little bit more presence of the music industry than in LA. Did you not feel that?
I think LA is definitely better to like network for sure. Like you come here to network, you meet a lot of everyone that's in the industry is here in LA. There are people in New York, but it's different. Like you kind of have to really really do your research and like find where everybody's at. Like it's a little different. Like here it's a lot easier like to meet somebody and they're like, hey, come to this session with me. And you go to the session and you meet somebody else, and then there's all these little activations too and events that you go to. So like LA is like more popping for that kind of stuff.
Okay.
New York has a music scene for sure, but it's like people there are just mostly just, you know, doing like live music stuff, you know, like it's not really the same
to like build a
from
career.
my experience. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just found it easier to move here in LA than it was in New York as far as moving in the industry. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so we're going to take a quick little break and then we will come back to learn more about the different stages of your career. This is a commercial break. If you're a business owner and would like to promote your brand with our community, hit us up on our email at laartisteadapodcast@gmail.com. And thank you all for listening. Make sure to subscribe and connect with us on social media. We would always love to hear from you. Now, back to the chit chat. Okay, we're back. Okay, so you were saying that you moved here to LA and you started recording more music. Was it easy to develop the relationship with Stilo, like as a producer, and is he the only person that you're working with?
At the time, yeah, it was like really, really easy. Like we like flowed, and we were creating a lot of music back then too. So like, and we're still releasing some music out now,
which we're very excited about. And did you start performing already?
No, not during this time. Like it was more so just creating the sound and honing it and making sure that we like the direction we're going in. And then it wasn't until recently, actually, like the past year, I've been doing more shows. Yeah. Okay.
And okay, I actually wanted to ask you, and the memory just popped back into my brain because you do have, I saw at least one music video. Do you have more music videos?
Yeah, no, there's a few. We have a Wild Heart video. We did a Sade project, a tribute to Sade that we did a video for. We just released Baby Visualizer. And then we have one more, Rush, coming out with the video as well.
Okay, I think that with like music videos, as it is to like network to find like the producers and to find like the right team, can you talk about like the first music that you made and like how did that come about?
Yeah, so the first video I think we did was Wild Heart, and that was like one of the biggest videos I probably did because we had a whole production team and we did the warehouse thing. And
then maybe that's the one that I saw.
Yeah,
with like a bunch of dancers, like
we had dancers, like all that, and that was really fun. And we actually, it was like 2 days.
Oh wow!
Yeah. We weren't planning on the second day, but I think one of the looks for the first day we're like not feeling it. And I was actually supposed to go back to New York that next day, but then I think my job or something caught on fire and like I wasn't able to go into work. So I was like, oh, maybe that's a sign I need to stay. And luckily I did because then we were able to do the second day and get like a new look in there. And like I feel like that I'm so glad I did that because it tied everything together.
And how did the idea like originate?
Oh, I don't even remember. I know we were looking at some videos online that we felt like resonated the best.
Who's we?
Oh, me and Stilo were looking at a lot of videos online, and we were like, let's try to do something like this vibe, you know, like we really resonated with I can't remember what the song was, but it was like also like in a warehouse and had like paint and all that, and so we're like, yo, let's try to like recreate this vibe, but like in our own way, you know. And that's kind of how like the idea came to be.
And then what was the next step of you like reaching out to like a director or like to like actually produce it?
I think Stilo handled that. Okay, because he called his people, and so like they did all that. So yeah.
Okay. I just think that sometimes it's a little bit. I talk about this a lot in the podcast. I feel of connecting and networking with people to like build something. I feel like sometimes it's really hard, but I love the fact that like you were working as a team to build something together, and the video was super cool. How did you feel? Like, did you feel comfortable? Did you feel like in your space as you were recording it? Or did it like put you out of your comfort zone?
It was definitely out of my comfort zone because it was like there's a lot of dancing. And like it was I had a great time doing it, but I was like still new, you know, like I felt like, oh, you know, you're your own worst critic, I think that's the saying. But like I was just
Definitely.
like,
I'm sorry.
oh my God, this could have been better. This could have been better. But it was my first video too. So it was like, I couldn't expect too much.
No, definitely. I feel like we're our worst critiques. I also like talked with them about how in the first episode I cringed sometimes when I listened to me. I was like,
God,
oh my gosh,
yeah.
no, why did I say that? Or why did I say it that way?
Yeah.
But I think that seeing yourself is like the only way in which you can like make those little tweaks and like get better, right? And then how did you feel then after that first video that you created with the second one? In terms of like your comfort level.
Oh, the second one. What was the Sade? It felt better. Like it was like I think a year later we did the Sade one, and it was like in downtown LA we did it, and that one was more fun because it was like a little bit more laid back. We did it on like a camcorder, and yeah, we were just having fun with it. So it was like a different vibe, It was just me and the camera pretty much, and like all these cool looks. So that one was fun too. Like again, that was like a little bit more laid back, so it wasn't like, oh my God, I have to get these dance moves right. So it was like, I liked it.
Are you comfortable with singing and dancing at the same time?
Yeah, but the dancing I still need to practice for sure.
Oh, why do you feel like you're not? Is it because you don't feel comfortable dancing, or is it because you don't feel comfortable doing both at the same time?
The dancing. I think it's the dancing. Like I can move around on stage, but I need to do more classes for sure. Like really lock it in,
Mm-hmm. I love dancing. It's just so fun.
Yeah.
And with your music, like what are the like the topics, the things that you like talking about in your music?
Well, most of it comes from like relationships, like either heartbreak or that's just like what was easiest for me to write. I've always been writing about that for a long time. I'm trying to challenge myself more now though, like to write more out of the box instead of just like the basic everyone writes about love, but I think what makes it unique is like how you write about it and from what perspective. And so I've been challenging myself more to like be a little bit more creative with it,
And how do you find inspiration? Like you mentioned that it's like from heartbreak songs. Do you write a song until you get heartbreak, or like do you
It used to be like that. It used to be like I wouldn't really feel inspired unless it was like some traumatic experience or like or if it was like I found a new person and I'm like really excited because that gives you the energy and the motivation to do it. But I realized it's like, well, you can't wait for those moments every time or you're going to barely be writing, any music. So it's like you have to find ways to like tap into it. And so, yeah, I've been finding new ways to talk about like meeting a new person, but like in a different perspective. Like maybe I'm writing about somebody that I met at a coffee shop, but I'm like the barista, like, and I felt like, I'm like, I have like a crush on this dude that just comes in every day, like just different outlooks to, different sides of the story that you can write.
That is so interesting because I like writing poetry. Like sometimes, rarely I put it out there, but not too often. But I hate the fact that I mostly only write poetry when I'm feeling sad. Right. And I'm like, why does it need to be until like this moment that I feel like I'm my most creative? And I think that maybe it's also like a coping mechanism, at least for me, that I don't do that. Like I don't write poetry professionally and no one is expecting my poetry. But I'm like, that's so interesting how like our creativity often functions. And so now like that you mentioned, like kind of like you're training yourself to find different avenues. You want to like continue to delve into like love songs. And then I also had this thought that I feel like sometimes when I hear songs, like I listen mostly but almost only to reggaeton, like that's the type of music. And honestly, sometimes I wonder, like, what is the creative process behind writing the song?
Yeah. I wonder that too.
Yeah,
when it comes to that kind of stuff, I don't know. When it comes to that, I'm curious too. But
because it's just like so random.
Yeah.
But okay, so I would love to also talk about like the music industry and like you being in the music industry as an Afro Latina. I feel like, at least from like my studies, because I really like studying about music and like music in Latin America. And I feel like most of the genres, if not all, were created by Black Latinos, by Afro Latinos. But I feel like there's a huge erasure of their presence. And like, how do you feel as an Afro Latina going into like this space where you're making music in English and Spanish? So you are like part of, I guess, like Latin music. what is like your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I always thought it was interesting that they're really Afro-Latinos in general are just very underrepresented in just Latin music. You know what I'm saying? Like when you think about like the top charts, like the Latin top charts, and like you looking at who's popping right now, it's like none of them are black. But it's crazy because a lot of Latin countries have a lot of black people too. So is there no black people making music? It's like no, but it's just like I feel like we're starting to have more of a voice now. There's definitely some Afro-Latinos that are starting to make some waves, but it's still like in comparison to like the lighter fair skin Latinos, it's like a huge gap, which to me is like crazy, you know?
It is pretty crazy. I feel like someone that I loved and still really like the music that he puts out is Sage. I feel like he has like a very like specific voice, a very specific, a very unique type of music. But I feel like he's like, I don't know if it's intentionally or non-intentionally, but being like pushed out. And I'm like, he's so relevant because also every song that he puts out, like I absolutely love. He just like made a song with Eladio Carrion and it's really good. Or like this new like thing of the Academy that they just all put out music. And I literally listen to those songs on a daily basis. But it's like, oh my gosh, like how is it that this person that's really good is not at the rate of fade, even that they both started like literally in the same like the Academy group, and it's crazy. And is there an intention from you to try to disrupt this and to be vocal about this, or would you like not, because like you don't have to be vocal about this, right? So is what's like your take on that?
Yeah, so like it's definitely to make some noise for sure, because it's like being Blaxican and Afro-Latina, it's kind of like I didn't have anybody to look up to either, like in that sense. I didn't see anybody doing music that looked like me, you know? And so like I want to at least be able to be some type of inspiration for little girls or boys that do have, you know, that are Black and Mexican or Afro-Latino, and be like, oh, if she could do it, I could do it too, you know? And so like, but again, like to me, it's just been insane that, you know, that there hasn't been any representation like that, really. You know, it's very, very, very few. And especially in Mexico, right? Like, you never hear about the Black people that are in Mexico ever, you know? So I'm also planning on doing like a regional project, like a regional mix. And that by itself is exciting because not too many girls are doing regional. It's like very few compared to, you know, all the men that are doing it, and then also being Black doing it. So it's like I'm excited, you know, to see like how it goes. But that's me, you know, like I'm Mexican, like that's just how I grew up, like and I'm excited to at least start, you know, treading the way a little bit, you know.
Oh my gosh, that is fascinating. Did you grow up listening to regional music?
Yeah, like my grandpa was a big Vicente Fernandez fan, and like that was like his favorite singer. So like it's always been around, you know, and something that I always wanted to do. I was just a little nervous because of the Spanish, you know. And so but the more I've been doing it, my Spanish has been getting a lot better. Like I came a long way with my Spanish. Like I'm fluent, but obviously like I still have an accent, like I still say things broken and things like that, but like that's a part of the journey, and like that's what I hope people can see too, especially other Latinos that grew up not speaking Spanish at all, or they're nervous just because their Spanish is broken and it's looked down upon, right? Like so many people feel like, oh my god, like I don't want to speak it because they're gonna make fun of me, and so they just don't speak it. But it's like the only way you get better is if you do it, and like you're gonna sound crazy, but like at least you're trying, you know. So
well, if it makes you feel better, you can't hear the accent when you're singing. Because I remember when I saw you perform at this event. One, I loved how you sing, how you perform in person, but also you speak perfect Spanish, so nothing to worry about. But I'm wondering, when did you start feeling like that confidence in speaking Spanish? Was it through the music that like helped you gain that confidence? Or was that before or even later?
Yeah, it was doing the music for sure. Like doing, obviously singing in Spanish, like it really helps me like pronunciate the words, right? Especially when I'm recording with Stila, he'll make me sing the word 20,000 times until it's right. And so like, and then after that, it's like, it sticks, you know? And so you're like, oh, okay, now I'm saying the words right. And so like, I'm noticing like my vocabulary is getting better, and like, But I mean, even in English, my English is broken. You know, like I heard that's like a thing too. Like people that speak two languages, like I heard that they can mix up a lot of words and get things confused, and like I feel like I do that all the time.
You know, it's so funny because I had at my job, someone came from London this week, and he was telling us. I have a coworker. They are they're from Miami, but Cuban and Colombian, but they grew up in Miami, and so he was like, "Oh my gosh, I love both of your accents," and they were like, "I have an accent, like what?" And it was so funny because I hear their accent, and it's just pretty funny because I am very very aware that I have an accent when I speak English. I know it's not the like, you can tell I speak another language.
Yeah.
You know? But I don't think it's something that I am not confident about, because I grew up in a setting, like the high school that I went to, it wasn't in San Diego, very close to the water. Everyone had an accent. And so it was like, that's just how we speak, you know? Right. It's nothing to be embarrassed about, because literally everyone speaks exactly like this, even though everyone in that high school, like, well, not everyone, but most of the people, like, grew up in San Diego. So it was like, oh, that's just how we speak, you know? Yeah. So it's just like, I guess, understanding your journey, and also like being understanding that that's like part of you, you know? And as you said, you can only get better practicing by doing it. Yeah. And then I also want to talk about your confidence. I feel like you are very confident, and honestly, I am a fan, like an Instagram fan. I'm like, every time you post something, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to be like her. Were you always this confident?
No. Okay. Well, honestly, like, not gonna lie, throughout elementary school, middle school, even up until high school, like I had, like, my confidence was like through the roof. Like it was definitely like, you couldn't tell me nothing. Like I knew, like, I was that girl for so long, but then I got humbled with that experience in high school. But then I still had that confidence. Like I still felt like I wasn't afraid to go after what I wanted, for sure. But now, like, I mean, it's life, you know, life happens, and sometimes, you know, you can get a little discouraged, and, you know, and like throughout the years, I've been managing like my self-esteem and things like that, because this is like a tough industry to be in. You're like constantly being compared. You're constantly like, oh, but they're doing this and I'm not there yet, and like that can get to you after a while. But like, you know, you kind of just have to pick yourself up and like find a way to cope with all those things, you know. And so like I think that was like the biggest challenge, is like learning, you know, self-care is important, and like mental health is really really important. And so like being able to, like I said, like help yourself out when it does get like that, and like you do feel like you're not good enough. And I still deal with that all the time, like almost every day, you know, like where I'm like, dang, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, like this is trash, it's just garbage. But like one of my goals is like, I don't want to live a life where I have regrets, you know. So like even if it doesn't work out with this, like I want to at least be able to say, like, I tried it though. I gave it my full, I went in it all the way, and I, you know, gave it my 100.
Yeah, I completely relate to like these industries, and the entertainment industry or creative industries are challenging, because I feel like you never have like, okay, this is exactly like what I'm supposed to be doing, and this is going to get me to the next step. It's like, you just have to keep doing it, you know? And I wonder, like, what are the conversations that you have in your head when you do get into those moments of frustration?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to like just every day where I'm like asking myself, like, am I doing the right thing? Like I always ask the universe for like signs, you know, like I'm like, okay, universe, like give me a sign if I'm like doing it, like if I'm supposed to be where I'm at, you know, or if I'm at where I'm supposed to be. And usually most of the time, like they'll give me like a little, like, you know, like I'll meet somebody who can help push like a song, or like I'll meet like you know, somebody that's like, you know, when I tell them about what I'm doing, they're like, oh my God, like I know the perfect person that can help. You know, like little things that just keep popping up where I'm like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. And so like, that's how I've been coping with it lately. Just asking for like signs from the heavens.
Yeah. You know, it's very helpful, because I feel like I was in a very like hopeless state a couple of like maybe months ago. But I feel like in my case, sometimes I just let the feelings be. because I feel like sometimes it's seasonal, you know. I'm like, you know what, maybe I feel very hopeless, or I'm feeling like crap in certain moments, but I'll get past it. So I just like am sad, and then I write poems. I'm like, okay, time to write. Right. And then, you know, like, then I feel like something happens, or I'm like, okay, don't let those feelings grow. Right. Sit with them, and then try to figure out ways to like get out of that. Like at least that's like sometimes for me in my creative journey. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to get better with that too. Like when I'm feeling like an extreme emotion, like if I'm feeling really sad or like upset or whatever, I want to be able to like, instead of, because I can be very impulsive when it comes to like, you know, like I am really, like really hard at hiding my feelings. Like if you'll know if I'm like feeling a type of way, like I cannot hide it. Like you're gonna know, and you can feel it, because the energy is gonna feel like night and day. But I've been better about trying to, when I do feel upset, going straight to like, okay, let me see how I can like put this in a song, you know, like, and like that's hard. Being able to be like, okay, let me be productive with this energy, and like, like it takes a lot of like training to your mind to be like, okay, we're gonna use this energy to make a song or to be creative, or like, you know, repurpose it. So
yeah, it's definitely hard, because sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, like I feel like
like I just want to cry. Like I don't even want to do nothing.
Yeah, but it's great like when you get out of those moments, because I feel like, okay, like you're ready, you know. And for your career, like where do you see yourself? Like what is the dream?
Yeah, like it would be so dope to be able to go on like a world tour, you know. That's pretty big. Or even just like being just nominated for like any like music awards would be dope too. Like that, to be like, yeah, you know. But yeah, just being able to like make a living off it, and like really just doing what I love, and full time, and being able to travel too and do it. That's like the dream, honestly.
Yeah. And if you were to like tell people like after this interview, you have to like go and listen to, what is that?
Oh, well, we just did Rush. Rush is my favorite song right now. One of my favorites on the project is with my boy Menen from Spain. Like it's a fire record for sure. It's fun, dancey, poppy, like nostalgic. Reminds me of like early 2000s vibes. So the 2000 house vibes. So I like it. Yeah.
Exciting. And if you were to give advice to people who are on their creative journeys, maybe in music, but also in any other creative journeys, what is something that you would tell them to keep going?
Yeah, definitely just, even if it's like baby steps, like you have to keep at it for sure. Like it might not seem like a lot right now. Like for me, I made the move to LA, and I write a song here and there, and you know, like there's little things you can do every day to like give into what you do, you know, even if it doesn't feel like you're doing like a big old thing, like the little things matter, you know. And so like, yeah, you just got to keep doing it, keep going, because eventually like all those no's, one of them is going to be a yes at some point, you know. I mean, I hope so for me. But the only way to find out is if like you just do it, you know? Because again, like you don't want to live like your life without, you don't want to live your life with regrets. You don't want to ever be like, oh, I should have done that, you know? That's like my worst fear, is being like, I should have done that. So that's why I do everything so like impulsively, which is probably not smart all the time, but like I'm also proud that I can do that and be like, you know what? I'm just going to do it, because like, why not?
Because you learn from those
things, and you learn from it, yeah.
Because if something doesn't work out, it's like, okay, let's not repeat that again.
Yeah.
And then you try something else.
And then you try it again. You just gotta, you know, sometimes an obstacle isn't like, okay, you need to stop. It's just like, okay, you just gotta redirect. That's just not the way. You gotta find another way, you know.
Oh my gosh. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge about your experience. And also, I'm like, I just am excited for when you make it big, because, you know, we need more Afro Latinas at the top and like representing, and because, you know, there's a huge Afro Latino population that needs needs to like be represented, you know, in those spaces. So I'm excited for you. Thank you so much for being in this episode of La Artisteada. I hope that everyone feels inspired by Mocha's journey and that you go and listen to all of her music. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of La Artisteada. Make sure to subscribe and connect with us on Instagram and TikTok. It is very important for us to create spaces where people feel inspired through art, and this would not be possible without our incredible team, Erin Jimenez, Estilo Life, and yours truly, Kiara.